Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for having me during your lunchtime today. I am Lauri Pagano. I am a licensed master social worker. I am a certified school social worker through Tempe Union High School District. I am also an ASU MSW field instructor, and I'm also the president of the School Social Work Association of Arizona. So thank you so much. And this is my presentation on becoming an Arizona school social worker. So what is a school social worker? School social work is a specialized area of practice within the broad field of the social work profession. And school social workers we are trained mental health professionals who can assist with mental health concerns, behavioral concerns, positive behavioral support, academic and classroom support, consultation with teachers, parents, and administrators, as well as we provide individual and group counseling in schools. We are instrumental in furthering the mission of schools, which is to provide a setting for K through 12 students and children to become successful academically as well as well-rounded citizens. And as a school social worker, we enhance the school district's ability to meet its academic mission, especially where home, school, and community collaboration is key to achieving student success. So you may ask, what is the role of the school social worker? I'm going to break that down for you. So I'm going to break it down into levels. Let's go through the macro and meso level first. So what we're involved in is first, program development and implementation, which is educational, social emotional learning, diversion and alternative education, family and parent support and education, after school enrichment, positive behavior supports, and interventions. So at the district and school professional development and training level, we definitely provide those things. We provide training and professional development in the areas of trauma-informed care, social emotional learning, crisis prevention, intervention, and response, McKinney-Vento services, which is a nationwide mandate to provide services for homeless students in their own school district, and mandatory reporting. The next one is care and service coordination and case management. That's definitely a part of it as well. We are liaisons and we connect to community resources and utilization, and also community, student, and family advocacy. Intervention, implementation, and monitoring. School social workers can also be involved in special education teams, Section 504 teams, and student assistance teams such as crisis response or school safety teams. So continued, we're also involved in community development and organization. So basically social workers, we do community needs assessments, volunteer recruitment and training, and community partnerships. That's a big part of what we do as well. So specific services provided by the school social worker, and this is the micro level. So what we do assessments, student education, behavioral, mental health, psychosocial assessments, and progress monitoring based upon those assessments. Intervention in education. We do individual, group, and whole class counseling, psychoeducational groups, social emotional learning groups, and information, behavioral health, and education planning. We also do a lot of crisis intervention, or we can be involved in a lot of crisis intervention, and that's risk assessments, crisis response, mandatory reporting, safety planning, transition planning. So basically, if you're a senior transitioning to college, or from your IEP plan to work outside of the school, and advocacy. Big part is advocacy. Social emotional learning. We can also get involved in conflict resolution and peer mediation. I actually just did that yesterday with a couple of groups of students. Problem solving, goal setting, emotion regulation is also a big one. Social skills groups and education. And also at the micro level is care coordination, case management between community organizations and parents and teachers. So for a holistic approach. So you're probably wondering, what is the day in the life of a school social worker? Well, as we know with social work in general, no 2 days are the same. That's the same for us. So let's look at the clouds, all the different clouds. We have conducting a welfare check for truant students, assisting a family with applying for benefit, giving a student hygiene items to take a shower, developing a safety plan with a student returning from hospitalization. So they were hospitalized for a time, now they're ready to come back to school. We would meet with that student and conduct a safety plan. We also would assist with developing an IEP if that's within our role at our school. We would help a student find emergency housing, whether independently or with their family. We do check-in, check-outs with a high-risk students. We would help a little one or a kindergartner transition into class and separate from their parents. We would facilitate an anger management group. We would attend a child and family team between the student, the family, and the outside mental health organization. We would facilitate a social skills group for students that are on the spectrum. And what else? What other bubbles do we have? So that's, bringing a food box to a family, teaching a social emotional learning technique such as Sanford Harmony lesson to a third grade class. So there is a lot. Social workers are in K through 12 and throughout districts in Arizona, and it just really depends on the setting and what they have the social worker doing. So we, as social work, we go into a lot of different things, and it's no different from being a school social worker. So let's talk more about becoming a school social worker. And just to note, school social work positions throughout Arizona may require licensure, certification through the Arizona Department of Education, both, or actually sometimes neither. So let's look at the circles, the prettily colored circles. So in one circle, the yellow circle, we've got school certification, which not all districts necessarily require, but some do. This is issued by the Arizona Department of Education. And in the pink circle, we've got social work licensure, LBSW, LMSW, LCSW. This is the license, the mental health licensure provided by the Arizona Board of Behavioral Health Examiners. And again, not all districts require this, but some do as well. And we also have, in the blue circle, school social work positions. These are issued by the individual school district or learning institution. And what we have right now is we have a lot of positions that are available by the School Safety Program grant, which was a really amazing opportunity that opened up more doors for more school social workers to be employed throughout districts in Arizona. So again, general requirements of becoming a school social worker. You must have an MSW or a more advanced degree from an accredited school, such as ASU. You would need official transcripts from a school like ASU. You would also need to obtain your Arizona Identity Verified Prints, or IVP fingerprint card, and that is actually a little different from the one that's issued for working in mental health. This is education specific. You would need references, definitely, with any job. And also, again, some positions would require state licensure from the Board of Behavioral Health Examiners, and some positions would also require Arizona Department of Education School Social Worker Certificate. And I will touch upon that in more detail. Yes, there we go. So, applying for the ADE certification, Arizona Department of Education, you need a completed application. You would need the application fee and a photocopy of your valid Arizona Department of Public Safety Identity Verified Prints fingerprint card. That's a mouthful. But take a note with that this card is different from the level 1 fingerprint clearance card that you may have for working in a mental health facility. This card must have an IVP number, and it's required to work in education. So similar, but different. So some notes on applying for Arizona Department of Education certification. I know there's been a lot of questions about this, and I'm hoping to really wrap this up and get some more clarity for you guys. So what this requires is an MSW or a more advanced degree, social worker degree from a school like ASU, or completion of a board approved school social worker program. So it has to be legit. Official transcripts are required, and you must complete 6 semester hours of practicum and social work in a school setting completed through an accredited institution, and that's something like your internship. However, and this is the big however, you can complete 1 year of full-time experience as a social worker in a setting that primarily serves in pre-K through grade 12. So you don't necessarily need to work in a school or intern at a school. You just need experience working with pre-K through grade 12 aged children. And if you're going to do that route, you would need to obtain a letter from HR or the supervisor in that setting. So, brings us to my organization, the School Social Work Association of Arizona. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We also have a website. We have email that you can see here. We are a nonprofit professional association founded in 1991 in the state of Arizona. We were formed to promote communication, collaboration, cooperation, and professional support among school social workers throughout the state. We are an affiliate of the School Social Work Association of America. And you may ask, what are some of the benefits if you were to join as a student member, which is only $15 a year? What would that include? Well, some of that would include quarterly newsletters, discounted registration for the annual state conference, and that conference is coming up virtually the first week of March, and we are right in the middle of planning it. So if anybody's interested, just stay tuned for that information on Facebook. Also, membership includes discounted membership to the School Social Work Association of America, mini grant opportunities. Every year we give out mini grants to any eligible member, basically any member, but the amount that you get is actually funded by membership dues. So the more members we get, the more that we can give to our members for mini grants. We also have a variety of professional development opportunities throughout the school year, which one actually is coming up. We're having a webinar called Heal the Healer, and it's going to be kind of like a fun sort of self-care, not traditional webinar, just kind of like a getting together and sharing of experiences, and going to have some fun activities. So we like to do things like that throughout the year, and that's going to be on December 4th. So if anybody's interested, I can definitely give you more information. We also send out communications, including resources, employment, and networking opportunities, and we also post those on our website as well. We also send out communication and promotion that's sent directly to school administrators throughout the state of Arizona. We also get a lot of school districts reaching out to us in order to post positions on our Facebook page and also on our webpage. We also have national representation at our delegate assembly for school social workers. That is a nationwide state chapters come together in Washington, D.C., and we think through problems that are going on in our state, some barriers, and we get together and we problem solve. And we also lobby our legislators that day. And lastly, we provide advocacy, education, and action opportunities that come our way. Yes, this is the link to the Arizona Department of Education, the certification page that you'll find the information for applying for the school social worker certification. So that'll have the full certification requirements, online application portal, and more. And I can also, in a little bit, I can put that in the chat box for you guys to have it. And that was my presentation. I imagine that you all have some questions, so this is the time.
For those of you that have questions, please feel free. You can unmute your mic to ask your question, or feel free to type out your question in the chat, and either myself or Natalie will be able to kind of ask those questions for Lauri. Lauri, we do have one question in the chat, and so Tatiana asks, how long have you been in the School of Social Work?
That's a great question. This is my 6th year. I've been a school social worker for 6 years. Before this, I was a mental health social worker. I was working mainly with adults and working in either hospital setting or director setting. But I've been doing this for 6 years and I absolutely love it. I work with teenagers and we know how teenagers can be, but it's just amazing. I love it. I love watching them grow up into young adults and the growth that they make through their journey in high school. So yeah, I've been doing this for 6 years, and this is my 4th year as a part of the School Social Work Association of Arizona, and this is the 2nd year of my 1st term as president. Great question, thank you.
And then our next question is, Nancy asks, what is the difference between an LBSW, an LMSW, and an LCSW?
You know, that is an excellent question. I consulted with one of my board members on these different acronyms, and honestly, I think LBSW is the bachelor version, but it's licensed. LMSW is the associate licensure, basically an LMSW, which is what I am. You get full licensure. However, the difference between an LMSW and an LCSW is that an LMSW, the biggest thing is that you can't bill independently from Medicare or Medicaid. LCSW, you have full billing rights and you can bill independently. So with an LMSW, you would have to bill underneath somebody who's independently licensed, which would be an LCSW. In the school setting, we're not necessarily considered clinicians. Some school districts don't really consider us clinicians. However, many of us are licensed, either LCSW before we get into the school position or LMSW during. It's just that when you build as an LCSW in the school setting, it allows for greater funding through Medicare and Medicaid for your student body in the district.
And then the next question is, why is it that not all schools have social workers? Are they not required by all schools?
Yeah, unfortunately, there are more school counselors than social workers. With the school safety program grant that allotted more positions, school social workers are actually gaining a lot of momentum throughout Arizona. Unfortunately, sometimes this occurs due to tragedy. I think over the past 2 or 3 years in the East Valley alone, we've had 36 deaths by suicide amongst our students in the East Valley alone. In my district, we've had several in the past 5 years. And unfortunately, organizations and entities don't usually see the value until something like that happens, and they see the value that social workers have in society with people. And it's unfortunate that sometimes it does take a tragedy or several tragedies or a suicide contagion, but they are starting to really see the values, and especially with what's going on with racial social justice and with some SROs in other cities throughout the country, we are now starting to be seen as a preventative measure and not just a tertiary measure. So we are gaining a lot of momentum. We as an organization are really getting the word out about the value of school social workers, whether it's through the media or reaching out to school districts as a whole and advocating with legislators and congressmen throughout Arizona. So yeah, I think that, some things are kind of slow in gaining momentum, but when we're there, it starts to happen. But that's basically the long and the short of it.
So this next question has a few questions into it. So Lauri, please let me know if you need any of this repeated. So does the school social worker typically serve as the counselor? And then the part of that other question is, who supports a social worker in their duties and how many hours do you work a week?
Okay, that is also an excellent question. I can actually see the chat box. Actually, no, I'm sorry. What was the first question again?
So the first part of that question was, does a school social worker typically serve as a counselor?
Not as a traditional, well, in a sense, not as the traditional guidance counselor, because school counselors do a lot of testing. They do a lot of college prep work. So there's a difference. Like school social workers are known and through training, through experience, we are the mental health experts in the schools. So if you're talking about the school counseling side of things, there is a difference in separation between duties. However, with like mental health counseling, we do a lot of that. I know at my school, I do a lot of mental health counseling, like what you might provide in a mental health setting. It depends on the needs of that particular school community. And the second question.
And then the second question is, who supports the social worker in their duties? And then how many hours would you typically work a week in this role?
So school social workers, every school district is a little different. In my role here, I work through special education. That means that I work mainly with students with IEPs, and we have another contracted social worker who works with the general ed population at my school. So who supports me? Depending on what school district you're in or what the school is, you may be reporting directly to the principal. You may be reporting, like I report directly to the director of special education at my district office. And then I work in collaboration with the administrators at my school, including the department chair of special education at my school. We work in collaboration together and we're colleagues. If you're talking about social emotional health, that's I don't know if you're talking about that, but so basically we just kind of, like the school social workers, we support each other. We make sure that we get our needs met, that we're advocating for each other, that we are advocating to administrators and to our bosses who may not necessarily understand what we do. So it's really important that we advocate for ourselves, our students, and our position, and let them know what we do. Because honestly, school administrators may not be well versed in school social work. So it's up to us and to do it for each other. Did I hit upon that entire question?
Yes, thank you, Lauri. And then the next question is, do students look on the SSW AAZ website for current job opportunities?
Absolutely, yes. We are still in collaboration with the Arizona Department of Education to get those positions published as well. There are deadlines, and the one coming up is January to get those positions filled. But if they don't get filled, then they go on hold for a little bit. But we are still in very close collaboration with ADE in order to work with that deadline and also getting those jobs published and filled. But yes, that is definitely one of the better ways to look for a job opportunity is on our website.
And then what advice would you give to someone who is wanting to go into the School of Social Work after graduation? Can you describe like the process, how to like finding a school, and then deciding like what age group, and kind of some of those questions embedded into that?
Yeah, definitely. I came from this after working several years in the mental health field, and I just happened upon this because we didn't have as many school social work positions even 6 years ago. But I think my advice is to definitely join an organization like ours, or join a Facebook page. Join our Facebook page and follow us, and you'll get you won't not only get like networking opportunities and information, but also like some little tidbits. And if you join the organization as a student, even as like working as a school social worker, we also really love to send out in our newsletter like tidbits on things like that, like advice or even self-care. So I think the advice that I would give is to just try to do as much networking as possible. Like if you have a friend who is interning, or even if it's just reaching out to our organization on Facebook, I think, and then going onto our website, just finding out where those positions may be, and doing a lot of networking, because that's how I got my position, was through a friend that I graduated with the MSW program in 2006. She was working at Tempe High, so I was like, yes, Corona del Sol opened up, and I networked, and that's how I knew about this one. So just keep your eyes open. Keep to social media, our social media website. Um, and I think, like, if you want to do it right after graduation, that's probably the best way. But no matter what, if you don't necessarily want or are able to go into school social work right after getting your MSW, my recommendation, if this is something you definitely want to do, would be to work with K through 12 students in some capacity, whether that's at a mental health agency or another organization like ICANN in Chandler. Anything that serves K through 12 students, and working that for a while until you can find a position that opens up in a school, is going to be your best bet. You need to have a little bit of that experience in order to guide you and for it to look on your resume. Finding a school, again, that would be to network through our organization, and also keeping up on our Facebook postings. What age group? I think, see, I didn't think I would ever want to work with teenagers. But I love teens. I love teenagers. And I think it's just, if you know that there's a certain population that, like, oh, I really can't do it, that would be like, okay, well, maybe not work with kindergartners. And talk to other people that you know who are school social workers, or who have done an internship at a school, and like, hey, what's entailed in working with this age group? Because there's certain things that I do working in a high school that, of course, a middle school social worker wouldn't have to deal with, and vice versa. Like, I don't have to do playground duty because we don't have playground in high schools. So it's kind of like recognizing, maybe getting some experience first, or recognizing what population or age groups are kind of like, yeah, I think I can work with this, or like, no, I don't think I can. So just bringing awareness to that.
Thank you. And then the next question is, one of the students is interning at a school currently, and has found that there is not really any training done upon employment. Is this something that happens in most schools that you know of?
Yeah, I can only really speak. I don't know if it happens at all schools, but I know I can speak from my own experience and experience in my district. And that's probably not true if you go to a district who has lead social workers, or supervisors or directors that are social workers. I can only explain from my experience. And my experience was that it was kind of riding it was kind of riding a bike with square wheels. I mean, it worked. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't as hard as that. But I came in with the mental health experience and working with a variety of age groups and population groups. I honestly, we didn't have any training. I didn't have any training. The social workers in my district, they happened to not have any training upon hire. And basically, what I did was that I sat with a social worker for the day. I shadowed as much as I could. And I asked a ton of questions. Like, I was constantly asking questions. And especially because when you're on a new job and they don't provide training, even for like the computer systems that are the formats that you'll use, you're still going to have questions. And that's totally okay. And I was really bugging some of my colleagues for a while, but it's something, yeah, if they don't have training for school social workers, I mean, they'll have training for mandated reporting, and they'll probably have training for crisis prevention and intervention, things like that. but the ins and outs, the specifics of the job, day in, day out, for that serve that specific school community and population group, if they don't have it, then it's just about asking as many questions as you can and trying to shadow with a social worker at another school for the day.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauri. And that was actually what the last question in our chat was, if a school does not provide that training upon employment, what do you recommend for students to kind of how they can get that, maybe some training, especially in those specific job duties, or kind of like more in that field that before they kind of like they start that new role?
Yeah, of course. I hope I answered all these questions.
Yeah, so students, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. But besides that, Lauri, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to meet and kind of speak more about your organization, some opportunities that some of our students pursuing kind of a degree in social work can look into. If you want to as well, Lauri, feel free to drop your contact information in the chat as well. So if students have any questions after the event or they would like to connect with you when they have availability, they will be happy to do that.
I am including our organization's email where they can reach any of us, and I monitor the email as well. And you can also message us on Facebook. I check pretty frequently. Okay, here we go. Yes, that's our email. That would probably be the best way for any one of us, especially me. Oh, also, especially if anybody is interested in our Heal the Healer event on December 4th, I believe it's 2 to 4 p.m. I'm not exact, but please contact us or check Facebook for more information.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. Like Lauri said, she dropped her contact information in the chat, so feel free to review that if you'd like to follow up with her after the event. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to meet with Lauri and learn more about her organization.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was a pleasure. If you want to contact me or us anytime, please feel free to do so. We're very happy to provide support anytime.